hard act to follow after Rafe. I think he's made a very strong point um, of where we are and what we need to do, and that the climate change has arrived. And it's also, just before I start, I do want to thank Asma Jangi Conference for inviting me. And I've known Asma ji. I knew her for a while, and she was a huge inspiration. And I want to acknowledge that as I go through, as I was thinking about what to say, I was thinking about how she would react to many of those things. Um, so it's wonderful actually, to hear from all the different speakers. And one of the key things that, of course, you pick up is that we have developed a much stronger understanding of climate change. हमें समझ आ रही है, we're talking about loss and damage, we're talking about reparations, we're talking about mitigation and adaptation. So that has really come into our language. And we also recognize that no country has suffered more than what Pakistan has. Um, the current flooding was just another of the disasters that we've seen, and we're seeing this more and more. But what I want to drive here is, I want to move towards action. We've heard a lot about the challenges. We've also heard a lot about the local challenges, which is fantastic to hear. But my focus today is really trying to show you two futures. And the first future is where Pakistan wants climate justice. We've been talking about climate justice. Our leaders have been going around telling the world that, we don't need charity. We need justice. We need money. And this is because of the emissions that the West has caused. And that's fair. I completely agree with this. This is what needs to happen. And we know that the COP is happening in 2 weeks. And I want to give you a future of the COP, what I think would happen in the COP. We will go there, our leaders will go there, our NGOs will go there, our communities will go there, and everyone will sympathize. Everyone will come to us and say, you know what, we feel for you. We feel what's happened to Pakistan. We feel for the population. We can see the suffering. And so personally, everyone understands, at a human to human level, we understand the suffering. We understand what's happened. But when they take a formal approach, when they go into the negotiations, things change. Because we see the world from our eyes, which is very important. But in order to be successful, we also need to see the world from other people's eyes. How is the world looking at Pakistan? How is the world operating right now? And what we see, they'll come back. They'll say, you know what, we'll give you a bit more money, but right now we're in a global recession. We have a huge energy crisis going. We have homelessness. We have other challenges that we have to deal with. There are wars happening elsewhere. There are election challenges happening. And when we go to loss and damage, they'll come back and say, yes, we understand that you need loss and damage. You need this money, but this will open up legal cases where, we will be liable. Their lawyers will stop them. So what really happens, right? People want to give justice, but they'll incrementally push us forward. And they'll say, you know what, we've set up a green climate fund. We've allocated 100 billion, but that hasn't really come in. Why don't you apply for that money? Why don't you get money from there? We do sympathize, but there isn't much that can happen. And we'll keep raising our voices, right? We'll keep going back and saying, no, we need this. And as Rafi was saying, it's not just going to be us. There'll be people from Sudan. There'll be people from the Horn of Africa. There'll be people from other parts of the world, because disasters are happening all over the world. And the challenge is that, our voices will start to go down. And we will have to wait for, the next disaster for us to demand more. And then we'll have the same cycle going on and on again, because there'll be something else happening. So the challenge here is that in this world, in this climate justice world, which I completely agree with, that we deserve this, we need this. It's not charity. We will be waiting for the world to come to us. We'll be praying and hoping that another disaster doesn't happen, and the world will come and step up. And that's our thinking. That's one future that I'm giving you. And I know it doesn't seem very, very hopeful, but that is a very plausible future where, we keep demanding and we keep asking and we keep seeing these disasters. And so we'll have to think, okay, what do we do with this? But there is a second future as well. And that's my provocation here, because I want to end this, on something that I think is possible, but is very uncomfortable. And that is a future where you think of Pakistan as, the headline would be Pakistan, the climate leader, leading a just transition. And what does that mean? That means that we have to make climate change our raison d'etre, which really means our reason for being. And why we should focus so much on climate change is because Pakistan is ground zero. This is where climate is happening. This is where climate meets the world. We have glaciers at one end. We heard 7,000 glaciers, 1,000 kilometers of GLOFs right now. The monsoons hit us. We have river systems. So if you want to see what climate disaster and what climate action or what climate challenges are, this is where Pakistan is. So this should be our number one priority. This should be our existence. And we should be thinking about it because we know that climate change has arrived. So what can we do? And this is where I want to give a few suggestions. And I want to talk to the community that's sitting here. We've got a wonderful conference with people who are actual leaders. They're the ones who will make a difference. If you look around, these are the people who can do something about climate. So I want to start with the educationists first. I feel climate change should be a core learning in every school, starting from primary schools. And the reason is because we may not exist, but the next generation is going to suffer a lot more. So they need to understand what are the challenges, what is happening outside, and they can simply walk out of their schools and actually see the challenges, see the flooding, see the poverty, see the vulnerability. So we need to expose our generation of young people to challenges and not just sit in schools and learn. We have to make sure that the educationists build programs, whether they're undergraduate program, whether they're postgraduate programs, focused on climate action, climate science. Throughout the world, there are new climate schools coming all across. Just one example, Stanford just got $1 billion funding to build a new school. The funders are not naive. They understand that this is the challenge of the future. And so the world is investing in education, training its people. And this is what Pakistan should be doing. When we look at research, I was fortunate to be in Pakistan in August, where I ran a climate workshop with many young PhD academics. And my discussion or my take with them was that I'm not here to teach you. I'm here to cooperate with you. Because what you are sitting on is a gold mine. What you are working on is what the world needs. They need data, they need information, they need to understand what's really happening on ground. And I can help you get that publication out. I can help you bring what's missing here. So we should be cooperating. We should be offering to the world that, listen, we have all the data here. We have all the information. If you want to study glaciers, come work with us, with our university. So the universities have to take this proactive approach, not wait for justice, but bring people in. And we've seen examples in Bangladesh, in other countries where they've taken this up so strongly, and you see such fantastic research coming out that it actually keeps this issue alive. It's not just our voices, it's not just our lungs screaming for justice, it's our work, it's our research, it's our data that's talking as well. So that's my first ask for the educationists, that you can do this. You can bring climate top of the agenda. The second is the business community that I want to go towards. Climate change is a huge opportunity as well. It's a huge business opportunity if you think about it. Almost, I've looked up this figure, $274 trillion will be required just for energy and land change transition. And other sectors have to come in this as well. So when we start to look at businesses, you realize that this is an opportunity. I speak to businesses and they say, oh, we're looking at technology. We're thinking of building technologies and we're trying to, create these new ideas. And for all those businesses, I say, you're 20 years late. It's already happened. It's gone. The era of technology is gone. Someone else has captured it. Silicon Valley, Bangalore, Berlin, London, they've already made those hubs. So what we get are crumbs. And that's not going to get us anywhere. That will not make us transform. That's not where the next unicorn, those are like the $100 billion companies going to come. But climate is open right now. We are in an era which we call the era of fermentation, that there isn't a model out there. Everyone's working on this. There isn't something that's been settled. So our businesses should unlock their capital. Think about not investing in real estate, which is unproductive. The amount of money that goes in real estate, if that money went into climate innovation, believe me, we would have amazing number of companies coming out from this part. We should be the ones who should be telling the world how to manage floods, because we experience floods. When you experience something, you can tell the world this is what happens. We should be exporting those capabilities to the rest of the world. We should be the one who should be producing net zero t-shirts or sustainable rice or low carbon milk. Because once we start to push these products out, this is what the world needs and they will come to us. So while we can chase the $100 billion, that is for the entire developing countries, we're missing out on the trillions that are sitting there to be invested. Companies right now are looking for ways to come in. And this is where our next innovation should come in. This is where the businesses should open up and think and make themselves uncomfortable. And there's a great example, like an example I was looking. If you look at the bazooka football, that came from Pakistan. That's the football that was used in the World Cup. And I looked up, I did some research on that. And it was very interesting that before that football, we were producing footballs by hand in Sialkot. And so one entrepreneur decided that, okay, he's going to move from producing footballs from hand to setting up this machinery. He made himself uncomfortable. There were lots of challenges around it, but that paid off. So the only way we can actually progress in private sectors when we start to become uncomfortable. We start to get out of our comfort zone, not invest in the industry that are not taking us anywhere in the world, but start thinking about climate technology. And I think that's what's really needed. For the funders and the international organization, I would say, don't give us a fish to eat, teach us how to fish. In my 10 years of research on climate change and climate finance, the biggest challenge, the one challenge that I've seen is that developing countries do not have the capabilities to develop strong proposals and projects. Because you need a lot of knowledge, you need a lot of resources, you need to understand what climate change is. And there's hardly any projects coming out of Pakistan that are local where you're able to get global funding. Yes, we get projects given to us, but that's not enough. So my ask for the funders and the international organizers sitting here is, give us the capabilities, teach us how to develop those projects. Don't give us projects, because we need to develop that indigenous knowledge. We have the data, the resources, but we don't have the capacity. And as our challenges are becoming bigger, it's going to get harder and harder to get those projects. Like if you look at Green Climate Fund, of the 200 projects that have been approved, of the $11 billion that they've committed, there is one single Pakistani project, local project. I'm not talking about the international one, equal to $10 million. So the world says, we want justice, but how are we capturing those projects? How are we developing and getting the money that's already there? So for the funders, it is, help us develop those capabilities, use your money to catalyze funding and develop those skills. And then for the government, my ask is, every ministry should be a climate change ministry. And the reason why I say this is climate change on its own is meaningless, it becomes a challenge when it hits. We spoke about food security, it's climate and food security, climate energy, climate and transportation, climate and health. So every ministry needs to understand what the implications of climate are. As Ali Sheikh Saab was saying, no point in reconstructing the same houses when floods will come and destroy everything. So who's within transportation or the housing ministry is really focusing on what climate compatible or housing needs to look like? But the biggest kind of tool that the government has is public procurement. That's the biggest leverage that they have. And so the moment they start to put in climate conditions, climate obligations, you'll start to see more and more innovation happen. When you're building roads, when you're building infrastructure, I'm not saying you go all the way to the top, but start building some of these elements, energy efficiencies, and you'll see innovations happen. And I think that's a very important thing. And my last provocation or urge is for the youth, because I could see a lot of young people sitting in this room. And there's a very nice Native American proverb which says, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. And so we are custodians. We don't own this. We will at one point pass away. We will go. But what are we leaving? And so it's for this youth, and the youth will also inherit this for the next generation and so forth. And so my ask for them is, you've got the most powerful tool in your pocket right now. If you look in your pocket, you put your hand in, you'll find a phone. And that is connecting you to the entire world, to the entire network. You are closer to people or to anyone that you can imagine. So use this power, use this tool to research, to connect with the right networks, to research on climate action, find the right solutions, connect it to solutions and challenges that are on the ground. Use this power, use this technology, because the next jobs that are coming in, like in the oil transition, we'll lose about 10 million jobs, but the green technologies will create 100 million jobs. So it's very important that we start to think about how the youth, how the young people can focus on this, because these are going to be the jobs of the future. And so my urge for them is really start thinking, start researching on these challenges. And so I'll stop here, but I just wanted to show you that these two futures, right? The first future is climate justice that we need. But here we're waiting for the world to come to us. We're sitting in our comfort zone. We're hoping something would happen. And as I showed you, these challenges are going to get bigger and they're going to get more expensive. And the other side, the other future is where Pakistan takes leadership. It develops its own resources. It gets the educationists, the private sector, the public sector, everyone working on climate change. And there's no doubt that we're not able to succeed. But the only thing we'll have to do here is to start becoming uncomfortable. And I'm pretty sure if, Asma ji is hearing this, she's someone who's always been uncomfortable. She's done things that made everyone else uncomfortable. And that's where the learning starts to come in. When you start to do things differently, that's where you start to learn. So on that very note, thank you so much. And I hope, we choose a future that would help us succeed. Thank you.